She stands in neutral whilst readying her shot, supported isometrically contracting soleus, gastrocnemius, quads, gluteus medius, tensor fascia lata, hamstrings, tibialis anterior, plantar flexors, and dorsiflexors, allowing to remain upright in legs to hold body weight. Transverse abdominis, erector spinae group, interspinalis, and intertransversary around her spine, keeping her straight and stabilized. Retraction of scapula, activating isometrically trapezius middle fibers, rhomboid major and minor. Rotator cuff group, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis, stabilizing her shoulders, whilst biceps brachii and brachialis activating isometrically for elbow flexion and slight supination. In her feet, isometrically flexing and abducting phalanges for balance, abductor iliacus, flexor digitorum brevis, abductor digiti minimi, lumbricals, quadratus plantae, flexor iliacus brevis, and flexor digiti minimi. Sternocleidomastoid stabilizing bilaterally for her head, isometrically contracting of wrist extensors, creating radial deviation. Extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis to allow the ball to be more balanced in hands. Finger flexion to keep tight grip on the ball. Flexor digitorum superficialis and flexor digitorum profundus. Flexing the fourth digits from first to fourth digits on her hands. Flexor polliacus brevis and adductor polliacus to engage, to flex the thumb, abductor polliacus brevis, extensor polliacus brevis, extensor polliacus longus, abductor polliacus longus to abduct thumb, extensor indices extend the wrist and abduct index finger, opinius polliacus to medially rotate the pollex, adductor digiti minimi to abduct fourth digit. This all allows to spread the fingers as far as possible on the ball. She looks up, creating neck extension, engaging bilaterally splenius capitis and cervicus, semispinalis cervicus capitis and thoracis, and the suboccipital group, rectus capitis posterior minor, rectus capitis posterior major, obliquus capitis superior, and obliquus capitis inferior. Her eyes on the prize. She goes for it, concentrically contracting into create hip flexion. The iliopsoas group, psoas major, and iliacus. Adductor group pectineus, sartorius, quadricep group rectus femoris, creating slight knee flexion, sartorius, biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and assisted by gracilis. Concentrically contracting, increasing dorsiflexion, tibialis anterior, extensor iliacus longus, extensor digitorum longus, moving shoulders into shoulder flexion, increasing range of motion in the glenohumeral joint, cora brachialis and biceps brachii short head. Pectoralis major clavicle head and anterior delt, further concentrically contracting biceps brachii and brachialis to move the ball further overhead, preparing to shoot the ball. Trunk flexion activating rectus abdominis, external oblique, internal oblique, whilst transverse abdominis compresses abdominal viscera. Multifidus stabilizing lumbar region. Forced inspiration expanding her ribcage, activating external intercostals, interchondral part of intercostals. Diaphragm flattens, assisted by pectoral major and minor. Serratus anterior, latissimus dorsi, sternocleidomastoid, scalenes, and erector spinae. Enabling to increase cavity volume, increasing volume of air into lungs. All steps so far aiding of keeping a low center of gravity, providing balance to provide an optimal vertical jump. Pausing briefly, striking fear into her opponent. She makes her move, forcing expiration, activating interosis part of internal obliques, diaphragm domes to original position, activation of external obliques, rectus abdominis, internal obliques, and transverse abdominis, forcing air out of her lungs, decreasing lung volume. Increasing shoulder flexion, moving into upward rotation, protraction of scapulas, activating serratus anterior, trapezius upper and lower fibers, whilst subclavius stabilizes her clavicles into her sternoclavicular joint. Elbow extension, acinius and triceps brachii. Medial rotation of humerus activated by supraspinatus, teres major, latissimus dorsi, and pectoralis major. Extension of vertebral column, creating height and transfer of force energy towards the ball, thus activating concentrically iliocostalis, lumborium, thoracis, and cervicus, longissimus capitis, cervicus, and thoracis, spinalis capitis, cervicus, and thoracics, and semispinalis, cervicus, capitis, and thoracis. Knee extension, contracting concentrically entire quadricep group, rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus intermedialis, and vastus lateralis. Hip extension, creating a greater force to throw the ball concentrically, contracting biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and adductor magnus and gluteus maximus. Finally, plantar flexion, activating gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris, tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, flexor iliacus longus, fibularis longus, and fibularis brevis, creating a greater force from the body compared to the ground, allowing the momentum of energy from her body to travel, pushing off the ground. The plantar interosi, adductor iliacus lumbricals, and dorsi interoses in her feet abduct and flex, aiding the lift off from the ground. Pronation in forearm, preparing to give optimal throw towards the hoop, activating pronator teres and pronator quadratus, medial deviation of the forearm, transferring maximal energy into ball, flexor carpi ulnaris and extensor carpi ulnaris. The final step, opinius digitorum minimi, flexor digitorum minimi, flexing fifth digit, and flexor digitorum superficialis, flexing wrist and phalanges, forcing the ball out from her hand. The ball goes in. She wins!
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.